Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. So today I thought we'd make together a simple, easy tote bag. Now this is going to be totally beginner friendly, which I am still learning, and anything that I have learned I like to share with you. So I hope this helps you along the way. So to begin, we're going to need 2 pieces of fabric which are measuring 19 inches down the sides and 14 inches along the tops. And then we're going to need 2 pieces of fabric for the straps, which are measuring 17.5 inches down the sides and 2.5 inches along the top of those. So to begin, we're going to be folding these 2 larger pieces in half. Now these are going to be folded in half with the wrong sides facing outwards. As you can see the pattern here, I'll show you. The yellow's more prominent this side, so that's the right side. Both in half with the right sides together. Right sides together. So the wrong sides will be facing outwards. So now I'm going to sew down both sides on both of these pieces. I'm going to be using a number 2 stitch on this specific machine, and I'm going to be using just under a number 4 on the upper tension thread dial. This may have to increase or decrease depending on the type of material that's on the spool of thread you're using, which in this case I'm just using 100% polyester. This is the back stitch or reverse stitch lever. We're going to be pushing it down to back stitch and releasing once the back stitch is complete, and we'll be doing that on a few occasions during this video. I'm going to be using 3/4 of an inch seam allowance, which means I'm going to be following this guideline on the sewing machine. So this line here, which leaves this amount of room, because we'll be sewing down here. Before we begin sewing, I would highly recommend holding the thread tails when you begin, just so it stops any sort of entanglement in the bobbin area. Also, don't forget to backstitch. The speed of the machine is controlled through the foot pedal, and I like to judge this whilst I'm barefoot. I find that's the easiest way. Again, don't forget to backstitch the edges. So now both pieces of fabric have been sewn down the edges on both sides. Next we're going to iron out the seams on both of these pieces, and this will help later when we come to line up these 2 pieces together for the bag. So moving on to the straps, we're going to be laying them down with the wrong sides facing us. So the right sides is going to be facing downwards and the wrong sides facing us. And we're going to be folding both straps in half, and to line those up, fold them both in half. And we're going to iron both straps. We're going to open them up. And then we're going to fold this 1/2 in half. We're going to iron along that line, and then we're to fold this other side in half so it meets the other piece that we've just ironed. And we're going to do the same on this strap. And then with these both pieces, we're going to fold them in half so both edges are meeting. And we're going to iron those down. Ironed out, ready to sew. I'm going to be sewing along this edge all the way along here and this edge, and the same on this strap, all along the edge and both sides. So with the straps, I do tend to look at the needle underneath just to see where I want it positioned, and I do try to follow this guiding line here and also with this line here. I don't know if you can see that, just there on the machine. You can see if I drop the needle where it's positioned, and that's where I'm going to be sewing along. So once we get to the edges, I like to raise the presser foot up and turn the fabric so that the needle stays in position with the fabric, and this is just to sew along this edge, the end of the handle or the strap. So lower the presser foot again, and I will just do a back stitch also here, so a couple of stitches forward and a couple of stitches back. And I do like to leave the thread tails hanging ready for the next time I come to sew, to cut any hanging threads as I go along. Going to do the same on the second handle. I do tend to straighten out the fabric as I go, just to make sure it's all aligned. Again, don't forget to backstitch. So our two pieces have been sewn, our two straps or handles have been made, and next we're going to take the outer piece of the fabric, turn that the right way out. So that one's still inside out and this one is now the right way out. So the one that is the right way out, we are now going to place the handles in place, and we're going to do that by placing the handles with the edges right near the top of the edge of the bag. To place those wherever you feel you want your handles. You can measure here if you want to, the width of both sides, but I just tend to judge by eye. We're also going to pin those in place. We're going to do the same on the other side, and I always measure those by lining them up with those ones that we've just pinned in place. And now once we've pinned those in place on both sides, we're going to sew along these edges, securing the handles in place. I'm going to be lining the fabric up on 3/8 of an inch line on the machine, if you can see that, 3/8 inch line. And I'm going to do that on all of the handles, and I'm also going to remove the pin that's attached so we don't damage the needle when we sew, and backstitch also. So now our handles have been sewn on, we're going to take this piece, which is the right side facing outwards, and we're going to take our other piece, which is the wrong side facing outwards, and we're going to put this piece that we've just sewn the handles on inside this piece as they are. So this one is going inside this one. Also, ensure the handles are tucked in and flat around the edges on both sides. So as I mentioned earlier, we ironed these seams out. We're going to make sure the one on the outer and the one on the inner are both lining up correctly. And we're going to pin this together. And we're going to do the same on the other side of the bag. The seams are in line. We're also going to ensure we're going to leave a gap, and I normally do that in between one of the sides where the handles are. So as you can see, I've got the handles there inside, and I'm just going to leave a gap of about this much room, and that's going to be our opening for when we come to turn the bag the right side out. So remember to leave a gap for the opening. So now I've pinned around all of the edges where I'm going to sew along the top, ensuring I've left a gap here for where I want my opening to be. So you have something that looks like this. We're going to sew all around the edges, apart from that opening here. So for sewing around the bag, I like to remove this storage box, and it creates a nice arm for the bag to fit around. It's just easier to manoeuvre the fabric. I'm going to be using 1/2 inch seam allowance. So my material is now around the sewing machine, and here is where I've left the gap for the opening, and I'm going to start sewing this way. And I've just left a marker here with a peg, so I know once I go around this way to stop sewing here for the opening. Don't forget to backstitch. So when I get to the edges of the bag where we ironed and lined the seams up, I just like to check that they're both in line before I sew over it. And I tend to hold that down. So now we're almost at our marker where we need to stop. Remember, this is our opening here to turn it the right side out. So I'm just going to sew along this bit and stop here. So now we've sewn around all the edges, ensuring we've left a gap. Now we're going to turn this the right side out by pulling this through. Might take some time, so please bear with me. You'll see the handles start to pop through. And now I'm just going to iron out all the edges so it's nice and neat. I'm just going to sew our little opening together, and I'm going to get as close as I can to the edge of the fabric. Not much of a measurement here, just judge by eye. As you lower the needle, don't forget to backstitch. Hardly noticeable. Just going to trim those frays. Tote bag is now complete. Here's another one that I made, slightly bigger version, but the same method applied.